Hi guys, I'm Elle and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about learning to stand up for yourself. So I just want to say firstly that I am very bad at standing up for myself. I'm trying to improve, and this is kind of things I've learned while trying to get there and things I've picked up on. So I'm not quite there yet, but if anyone else is in my position, then hopefully this will help. So firstly, I think something really important to think about when you want to kind of be better at maybe asserting yourself or telling people what you do and don't like or setting boundaries is knowing yourself. So one of the things when it comes to, say, one of your friends is like making jokes or negative comments and you're thinking, I don't really like that doesn't really sit well with me, even if they're joking, maybe they're not joking, you know, if it hurts you or if it upsets you or if it's uncomfortable for you, then it doesn't matter their intentions, you know. I think something important is like understanding how hurt you actually are, or understanding what your actual feelings are, because I think if you're really, really hurt or really, really uncomfortable, then it's grounds to say something, and then you can also gauge how severe or how firm you need to be, and whether it just needs to be a sit-down conversation, whether you can even just text them about it. I think that's something that I've really learned, is understanding your emotions when it comes to something helps you then see what course of action is best to take. If you just feel a bit hurt and then you immediately, you know, get really upset, or you have a really big conversation with someone and then afterwards you go, oh, maybe that didn't need to be that big of a conversation and I feel like I've maybe made things awkward or that kind of thing, then it can be a bit, you can feel a bit guilty or like a bit of regret about it, or maybe feel a bit silly. So yeah, I think knowing your feelings about the situation and understanding where those feelings come from, that can also help you articulate yourself better. It can help you explain to the person better, like, I know what you might be thinking in this situation, this is what I'm thinking in this situation, so that's why it would be beneficial if I made you aware of this, you know. I think it's also good to make sure that if you're saying this to better your relationship with someone, whether it be platonic or romantic, then you need to make them aware of that. You need to say, I'm not trying to, you know, be angry with you or like have a go. I'm doing this because I think it would be rude for me to keep this to myself. I also think it's very important to be aware of whether this is the first issue or it's a repeat thing, because if it's the first issue and you maybe don't really feel that hurt by it, or if on the other hand you're consistently being hurt by this person, or you're consistently feeling uncomfortable with something they're saying, then you know, of course, whether it's something you need to bring up or not. Because if it's just, oh, this is kind of the first time I've said this and it's only a one-off and it's not really like them, so maybe it doesn't really matter, then maybe you don't really need to say much. But if you keep in mind, oh, I've been hurt by this person quite a few times now, seems like they're kind of getting too comfortable saying this kind of thing to me, then you need to speak up about it. I also think, like I said, about if it's for you to better the situation, you need to be aware of whether it will better the situation. Like I said, if it's only the first time, if you're not that hurt, is it worth bringing it up? Will it improve anything? Because if it's not that big of a thing, can you let it go? And if you try to let it go and a week later you're still thinking about it, then of course say something. But I think it's important not to say anything straight away and to kind of sit with it and evaluate the situation. Moving on from that is like picking your battles, which kind of on the flip side of what I just spoke about also means knowing the other person. So knowing what kind of approach will and won't work with them and knowing how they might react. For example, I know with my friends that they're all quite mature, respectful people. We all love each other very much. We all just want the best for each other. So if I ever had a problem, I know that going to them, just saying, hey, I've just noticed this. I know maybe you might not be wanting me to feel like this, so I think it's probably better if I say something. And then, bosh, issue's done with. And, you know, they're improving, you're happy. but then going to them maybe saying, you're being really horrible to me and you're saying this and you're saying this, and they might be thinking, hold on, where's this come from, you know? If it's the first time that you're bringing it up as well, I think it's very important to kind of be calculated and kind of think about what you're going to say, because you have to, obviously, I know this is not the same in every situation, I'm just assuming this about kind of a hypothetical, but if it's a good friend and you guys get along, I'm going to assume that they don't even realise that what they're doing is hurting you. I'm a very sensitive person, so I'm very sensitive to certain jokes and things sometimes. So sometimes if my friends make jokes or make little comments, they will have no idea that it's making me feel any type of way until I say something. So if you're saying it for the first time, you haven't given them a chance to respond or to improve or to change their thinking or to change their action. So then, are they deserving of that anger, of that approach? But if you said it quite a few times and they're not changing it, then that is a blatant disrespect and a blatant disregard for the boundary that you've already set and for the issue that you've already raised. So then it might be important to be a bit more firm with them or a bit more serious. And again, that relates back to the first kind of time hearing it / repeat offender type thing, where if they are consistently doing this to you, then maybe it's important then to be a bit more firm, because even if they don't know what they're doing, if they're doing it a lot, it'll be difficult to get out of the habit. If it's just the way someone jokes with you, you might have to say, look, I understand that this is the way you function, but this is the way I function, this is how it comes across, so can we get to a mutual agreement, a midpoint? And I've also written in my notes about giving people the benefit of the doubt. So evaluating the situation again and understanding their intentions and understanding who they are and saying, well, maybe they haven't really done this before, they're a very good friend otherwise, they're a very good person otherwise, so it just seems to be this, so maybe I'll let it go just this once. Or if it's a little thing that they don't really seem to mean to be doing, just saying, I understand that I need to know that they don't mean it and I need to then move past it. But obviously, like I said, if it's a repeat thing, if you've brought it up and they keep doing it, or if it's something you can't get past, then saying to them, I'm well aware that this is half my issue, but I would also appreciate if you are a bit more aware of it and you try to bring that behaviour down a little bit. And my final point in this kind of, with this sub-genre, I don't know, is the kind of when, where, how thing. So, like I said, I think it's important to take time away from a situation for you to understand what you feel, and then where you have that conversation and how you have that conversation. So kind of just what I've already said, but obviously if you're not somewhere you're comfortable, it might be a bit difficult for you. So you might want to ask them to come and see you. You might want to FaceTime them so you're both in your own respective comfortable places. And it just makes it a bit less daunting rather than having this conversation out of the blue in the moment. You haven't thought about how you felt, you haven't thought about what you're going to say, you're maybe in public, you're, you know, wherever something's happening, and it might just make for a slightly more uncomfortable, slightly more awkward time of it, even if the end result is fine. That leads me on to my next point, which is having balance. So I think the first balance is staying respectful versus being too nice and letting people kind of walk all over you a bit. So obviously it's good to keep a respectful, kind of healthy, I'm going to talk to you like I'd like you to talk to me type thing. But also, just because you're being nice, it doesn't mean that you have to let them kind of disregard what you're saying. They might go, oh, but it's just a joke, it's just a joke. And then you need to go, yeah, I get that, but it's not for me. Or, oh, but I didn't mean it like that, you know? And you need to say, I understand that, but I still need you to listen to what I'm saying. Because like I said, no matter what their intentions were, if it hurt you or if it didn't sit right with you or if it was uncomfortable for you, that's a problem. And as your friend or someone you care about, whoever this person might be, it should be in their best interest for you to be comfortable with them if they value you. If they value their relationship with you, they should want you to be able to come to them with those problems, and then they should react the same way that you've approached them. So they should react with the same maturity and respect and kindness that you've approached them with. Because at the end of the day, if your intention is, I'm bringing this to you to sort something out and to make our relationship more comfortable and more understanding, then they should go, hey, that's great, thank you very much. If you're trying to have a productive conversation, it is not useful for either of you to get upset or to get mad. Obviously, it's okay to be upset if you're being told that you've done something wrong. Like if you're saying to this person, you've upset me, they might be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. They're gonna be upset that they've upset you. You'd imagine, of course. So, of course, people might get upset, but you don't need to get upset with each other, if that makes sense. You can be upset about the situation, about what you've done, maybe what the other person's done, but I think the interaction needs to be calm and respectful and a conversation. This is another point. Do not let the other person, if you're being approached maybe, don't let the other person be mean or be harsh with you or anything like that just because you're in the wrong. You can be very aware that you're in the wrong, and the person can be aware that you're in the wrong without disrespecting you and without being rude to you. There are times where I've been in the wrong and I've taken responsibility for the fact that I'm in the wrong, but subsequently I've let the person be rude to me or show behaviour that I wouldn't usually accept from people just because I've gone, yeah, but I did something wrong though, so they deserve to treat me like that. No, they don't. Especially if you didn't realise what you were doing. If you were, you know, obviously it's a very different scenario if you were bullying someone or if you were outright rude to someone. That's a very different scenario than you maybe made a joke or a comment that you didn't realise wouldn't come across very well. And it's okay to take responsibility and to be aware that you're wrong without taking disrespect. Like I said, these conversations, you know, they're 50-50. It should be calm, respectful, mature on both sides. And whether you're the one being approached or you're the one approaching, you need to keep that in mind. So if someone approaches you with anger or cruelty or kind of disrespect, then you need to say, hey, I'm totally happy to hear you out and I'm really sorry if you're upset or if I've upset you, but I need you to approach me with kind of calmness and be able to help me understand you here. Obviously, it's very natural for you to kind of want to, like, take out your upset on someone. So, again, obviously in other situations like bullying or outright rudeness, I'm not talking about that, because standing up for yourself in that situation is being like, hey, stop. And maybe they don't deserve that kindness. But I still think it's on you. You don't want to kind of sink to that person's level. So you can be a bit firmer, but I think keeping a kind of mature, respectful stance the entire way through means that you don't do yourself any injustice by being rude. This leads me on to my final point of this point, which is knowing when it's a conversation versus that disrespect. Because someone can approach you and you can be having a conversation, but then it could quickly turn into something disrespectful or ugly or rude. And again, that is not something you want to engage in. And if you kindly say to them, hey, I'm noticing this is getting a bit heated, do you want to take 5 minutes and we can come back, we can kind of think about what we want to say, that kind of thing, because I wouldn't want to say anything in the heat of the moment, I'm sure you wouldn't want to. And just make sure you're maintaining that stance the whole way through, and make sure you're understanding what you deserve from that person, whether they're angry at you, whether you're angry at them, whatever. You deserve respect from them. They also deserve respect from you most of the time. So making sure that's being maintained from both sides the entire way through is very important. Hi guys, this is Elle in editing. I just wanted to add a quick little point here, which is it's also very important to understand if you're the one being approached, understand the other person's intentions. If they are approaching you to improve the situation and to be like, hey, I just wanted to say this, then that's fine. But if they're just approaching you to take out their anger on you because that you've done something wrong and they're upset, it might be very difficult, but it's also okay for you to just walk away. Because as much as you might think, oh, but this makes me look worse, I'm not apologising, whatever, you can say, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm not taking this from you. I'm really sorry for what I've done, but this isn't okay, and you can leave. If they are just trying to be angry with you and looking for something to be upset about, you do not have to allow that behaviour just because you've done something wrong. Enjoy the video. And that also means, as unfortunate as it is, it's also important to know when to cut people off. Again, not something everyone wants to do. It's not nice to lose a friend. It's not nice to lose any connection really that you care about. But if someone can't handle one conversation with you, whether you've done something wrong or they have, if they can't handle one conversation without maturity and without respect, how are they going to handle other things, you know? Is this someone you want around long term? And knowing what factors should lead to that kind of re-evaluation of your connection with that person. So finally, I'm just going to talk about kind of the aftermath of one of those maybe conversations or one of those moments. So I think it's very important to not hold something against someone. If you've approached someone and said, hey, you've upset me, blah, 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 and they've gone, oh my God, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, and it's like kind of best case scenario, the conversation's turned out well, it is then not mature or kind to hold that over someone and to go, oh yeah, but you upset me last week, so I have a right to blah, blah, blah. No, you don't. No, you don't. Obviously, you can be upset for as long as you need to. You can feel those feelings for as long as you need to. But if that person is actively trying to change and to work on that behaviour, then I don't think you necessarily have any reason to hold it against them. Like I said, it's a very different thing. If they were a repeat offender and they just kept doing it, then you can go, well, you've done it so many times now. These are all the examples, X, Y, Z. What's going on here? You know, this is upsetting. But if they are actively trying to work on it, and you can see that they are sorry, what is the point in holding it over them? I also think it's very important to try and forgive people instead of, I know this kind of ties into holding it over them, but I think a lot of the time it can be very easy to go, well, you've hurt me once, and I'm going to be on the lookout for in case you do it again. If they're your friend and you care about them, assuming this is the scenario, obviously, if it's someone you care about and you want to keep them in your life, why would you be searching for a way to sabotage the relationship like that? Why would you be searching for something to be upset about? Instead of just going, okay, well, you're working on it, and if I notice anything again, maybe I'll bring it up again, but for now, we've had the conversation, I'm happy that you've listened to me. I think it's very easy to kind of keep an eye on things and go, oh, but they might do it again. If they're telling you they're going to try, and there's nothing to go against that, why wouldn't you just believe them and forgive and try and move on? And obviously, if it happens again, it's glaringly obvious, you can say something again, you can cut them off, you can do whatever you need to do. But I think, especially when it's the first time that you've kind of said it to them, you need to cut people some slack a bit. And this is kind of just my last point on this, which is, if a person is showing you who they are, regardless of your connection with them, how long you've known each other, how good friends you are, listen to them. Look at what they're showing you and go, okay. If someone has approached you for a conversation, or you've approached someone for a conversation, and they react any way that isn't maturely and kindly and respectfully the same way that you've approached them, that says something, and you should listen to that. There's a very fine line between saying things kind of in the heat of the moment and getting upset and reacting off of anger than there is between behaving disrespectfully and behaving immaturely, which I think is a bit blurry sometimes. And it's never your fault if you don't catch that behaviour. If someone's showing you who they are and you're going, oh, but we've been friends for 5 years, so surely they didn't mean it, or but usually they're so nice, so probably they didn't mean it. That's not your fault, but I think it's important to listen and to not always make excuses for someone. If you know the facts I think excuse the behaviour sometimes, occasionally. Like I said, if it's your friend and they're maybe making some jokes at you that you don't really like, but you go, but I know they're joking, so now I'm not going to be upset, I'm just going to make them aware. That's fine, versus I've tried to approach this person and they're really, really angry and they're shouting at me or whatever, or they're calling me names or whatever a person might do. That's not okay. And whether, like I said, you're in the wrong, they're in the wrong, they're upset, you're upset, whoever is kind of maybe in the wrong or in the right, that doesn't change the fact that both people deserve respect. So just make sure you're listening to what people are telling you and you're looking at what people are showing you and then doing with that what you will. Okay, that's it. That's the end of my talk. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys are having a lovely summer, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.